Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to this episode of the MBV podcast. I'm Jeremy Gardner, and this podcast is hosted by mindbodyvortex.com. On this series, we venture deep into the mind-body connection and the exciting and dynamic experience of what it means to be a human being. We explore topics like meditation, mindfulness, and mindful development by connecting with professionals, teachers, practitioners, creatives, entrepreneurs, and just interesting people that can help us expand our perceptions of reality and experience a more exciting version of life. Within the last decade or so, we have been learning so much more about the incredible benefits of meditation and about more and more people implementing various forms of meditation into their daily routines, not only as a way to higher consciousness, but more as a modern practice of personal development. In today's episode, we are joined by Gala, a meditation teacher based out of Toronto, Canada, who specializes in self-awareness coaching. After overcoming her own struggles with anxiety and inner conflict, Anna turned to personal development as a way to take control of her inner world and steer her life in a new direction. When she discovered meditation as a therapeutic relaxation technique and an effective way to control her anxieties, she was stunned to realize that she had finally found what she had always been looking for, herself. This is when everything changed and life became a lot more exciting. Anna was on a path of self-awareness and ready to explore. Through the development of her own disciplined meditation practice and time spent studying the traditional philosophies of meditation, Anna learned that the reason self-awareness is so important is that it allows us to become familiar and comfortable with ourselves so that we can consciously know what our body, mind, and spirit is craving in order to live a fulfilling and worthwhile life. In this discussion, we will be talking about what it means to be self-aware, why this topic is so important today, and why meditation might be the most powerful way to truly acquire this rare ability of self-awareness. In today's episode, we are talking to meditation teacher Gala. Let's get into the discussion. Anna, what's up? Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm happy to have you on. There's a lot of interesting things I want to get into today, but the last time I was talking to you, you were kind of in the middle of doing some traveling. You had a lot of stuff going on. So what have you been up to for the last couple months?
So within the last couple months, I've had quite a few shifts that have happened. And a few of them include leaving my job to pursue my passion, which is self-awareness and meditation coaching. I've done a little bit of traveling and really dove into the deep end of not only my personal journey, but really getting myself out there with events and workshops and working with private clients. So really giving it 110%, which is awesome.
Cool. Yeah, you just had an event. I'm not sure where it was. You were in some pretty interesting locations there.
So one of the events actually was the first annual festival that was called Tomorrow Today Culture Fest. It was in Negril, Jamaica. It's a pretty amazing festival. So it's a perfect combination of all of the things you love. So it had fitness and yoga and meditation and acro yoga and consciousness conversations and workshops, meditation, which I was able to lead the opening meditation with my fellow coach, Stacy, known as Irie Soul. Mm-hmm. It was pretty amazing. So a lot of awesome things, plus awesome musical concerts at the end of the nights and a little bit of everything fun in the sun.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So yeah, it seems like you're doing a lot of interesting things, and that's why I'm happy to have you on, because I think you're a meditation teacher that I think represents more of a unique and modern approach to these ancient practices and personal development, while still being able to kind of integrate and maintain the core principles of meditation philosophy into your teachings. And there are some interesting topics that I would love to explore with you today. And I would just love to start with kind of what was your initial path in getting into meditation, for example? Where did this come into your life?
Yeah, great question. So really it started, 7 or 8 years ago when I was dealing with some pretty severe anxiety and got to a point that I could be doing a simple and not anxiety-filled task or activity, like, for example, playing cards with my family. I tell this story all the time just to really drive my point home and how extreme my anxiety was. But I would just be playing cards with my family, and I would have an anxiety attack. And, for all purposes, I think everything was pretty safe and secure in that moment. So there was definitely something going on inside of me that I had to explore. And I really dove into my self-development journey at that time, into the books and audios and workshops and seminars and, going to temples and going to pretty much anything that came into my experience that seemed like it could help me.
Yeah. I
did. And, many years later, and meditation actually wasn't at the forefront of my self-development journey from the beginning. It came later on in a rather serendipitous way. But, when it did, it opened up my eyes even more to a new way of looking at not only myself, but my experience and the things that were going on around me. And it really helped me tune in and tap into a part of myself that was the witness and the observer of my experience. And so I wasn't just being kind of dragged away by emotions and thoughts and feelings. I was able to look at them, kind of as if you're just watching it on a show, look at them and figure out, okay, this is what I'm feeling, come back to my breath. I know that this is not me, that I'm having these feelings because it's something that is, stemming from me. It's circumstantial, or it's something from the past, so you're really able to kind of better dissect everything that's going on around you with like a compassionate but critical eye.
Is that something that you learned? Is that something that you learned how to do, or were you taught these things, or how did that happen?
I mean, I think intuitively we are the wisest people that we know. And so when you are just still enough to tap into your own wisdom and to your own knowing, these things you learn more about yourself, and you learn what is your gut voice, what is your intuition voice, your higher self, versus what is kind of an ego-based voice, which we can definitely touch up on, but something that is authentically you, or is something that is from your experience that's speaking instead.
Yeah, that's interesting, because anxiety is definitely something that is very common. A lot of people struggle with it, and that's kind of typically one of the entry points for getting into meditation. Even if it's not the first step, as you said, it's something that you got led into. But when were you starting to see some results with your anxiety, kind of being able to manage those difficult feelings?
I mean, it's not necessarily something that you even have to build up to, but in your meditation, you can find that instant relief. If you come to your breath and you're present in the moment, then you can find, even for mere moments, you can find a sense of relief. Because, I say this to all my clients, that if you're present and if you're in the now and if you're with your breath, anxiety doesn't live here. Stress, fear, doubt, insecurity, anxiety, they don't live in the present moment. They live in the past and they live in the future. And so if you just take a few mindful, full, deep, and complete breaths and reground yourself in the moment, you take away the power that anxiety and that stress and overwhelm hold.
Yeah. And it really is that simple, but it's a very difficult thing to do or to understand, because it's something that we don't usually do that often, right?
Yeah, we're absolutely not in the present moment. Yeah. The majority of our days. So the practice of meditation and just being in your breath and getting comfortable being in your breath and comfortable being in the present moment with consistency, obviously, you're better able to do it just habitually throughout the day. It's just like learning anything, learning a language, learning a new skill. It's just practice and consistency, and really the commitment to self and the commitment to seeking something more of yourself and your experience.
Yeah, that's great. And that's what I was referring to when I was mentioning kind of the modern approach to meditation, because these principles are kind of the ancient philosophies. This is Buddhist philosophy we're touching on, the present moment, and really just developing a relationship with the simplicity of the moment. And I was very surprised at what was happening with in my early kind of experience with meditation, with the stress and anxiety, because I thought that I was helpless, like most people do. And when you understand how simple it is, and then what starts to happen, it's actually very surprising. It's very refreshing. And in terms of the modern approach, we're applying these very simple ancient philosophies into these complex environments of our modern atmosphere today, right? Like we have so many things to pay attention to, our so many things begging for our attention. So how has it been going for you recently in terms of your meditation practice? And
Yeah, great question. So anxiety isn't necessarily something that we beat, it's something that we manage.
mm-hmm.
And the more tools and techniques and practice you have in kind of a meditative, still, balanced, calm, and present state, then you're able to manage them quicker. So it's not even necessarily like I need to feel good 100% of the time or I'm doing something wrong. It's I need to become more efficient at realizing I'm pulled out of my place of stillness or my place of calm or balance and groundedness. And within that moment, come back to your breath. And so you have these little pop-ins of anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and they're little teachers throughout the day, but they're just reminders that you've been pulled away and just to come right back. And so, before doing something new or, going on a first date or whatever it is that you're feeling a little overwhelmed or stressed about, or, something happening at work or whatever the case may be, and you're pulled away even for that moment, you could feel it instantly. You feel it in your chest, a little heaviness, a little harder breathing, your pulse racing. And in that moment of being pulled away, through practice, you'll know to just come right back and know that those are external factors and they are not you. You are not your emotions. You are not your thoughts. You are not your mind. You are just this present moment. You are just this breath. And with that clearer perspective, you can kind of walk into whatever situation you're going to with a higher level of awareness and a higher level of groundedness.
Yeah. Is that a conversation that dialogue, is that actually happening in your mind? Are you having this actual conversation with yourself?
I mean, sometimes out loud.
Oh, yeah.
So it just depends on the situation and how severe your anxiety is, I guess, at that time. But yeah, it's an absolute conversation you start having with yourself. Mm-hmm. It's like when you start tying your shoelaces, you're like, okay, crossover one, pull tight, loop, scoop, pull. You know what I mean? Like whatever conversation you're having with yourself to really teach yourself how to do something. And then as you get more comfortable, it's something that happens instinctually. But yeah, absolutely. Using affirmations, using mantras, that you can incorporate throughout your day to when you are pulled away and you are feeling stressed, you just come back and you say, I am calm as you inhale, whether mentally, silently, or out loud. And then, I am grounded as you exhale. So we're not just like saying the words, but we're allowing those words to create the feeling of calm and groundedness in us.
Yeah.
Just like if you're walking into a big meeting, you breathe in, I am confident, I am creative, or whatever it is that can help cultivate a space for you in that moment to just feel a little better and execute whatever you're going to be doing with a little bit more confidence and calm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it does make a difference, right? It's just changing the energy that's going on. And even if it starts with what you're thinking, or if it helps to even speak out loud, that could actually make a big difference. And it's like being there for yourself and learning how to be there for yourself amidst these challenges that we come across on a daily basis. And that's kind of seems to be kind of at the core of your teachings and your meditation practice, with self-awareness, for example. This is something that comes up a lot, and could be hard for a lot of people to understand what that means in terms of self-awareness. And I like how you're able to describe that. So I want to touch on that a little bit. But first, when did you know you were ready to start working with other people and teaching meditation?
Yeah, I think that was just something that was innately part of my DNA. Mm-hmm. I came from a really giving and caring family. And then, throughout even the beginning of high school, being in student council, I was throwing events for my high school and always incorporated a charitable aspect. Was always looking at different ways that I can serve a greater purpose or help those in need. So I think it was just really innately just a part of who I am. And then I was just always that friend who everybody called, everybody was asking for advice from. And, I was noticing like, hey, like I'm giving pretty decent advice here. So and people kept coming back and my advice was really helping them. And I felt really good being able to give them that advice that was helping them make a decision or helping them, look at life a little bit differently or give them a different perspective. So it just, all the pieces kind of started fitting together for me to do it, as a full-time passion.
Yeah, so it was kind of a natural. That's interesting. So yeah, I want to talk about some of your experiences kind of working with people and But first is, how would you define self-awareness? Because I know that you're a meditation teacher, but you consider kind of self-awareness to be the main aspect of your teaching. So how would you define that?
This was self-awareness, just that those little buzzwords were something that have been a more recent addition into my vocabulary. Before it was self-development, self-care, self-love. But man, self-awareness really crept up on me in a way that it made things so much more clear. So the way that I have self-awareness defined, even on my website, I have it defined as the conscious knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires. And the conscious knowledge of. So you're aware of the way you're acting, the way you're speaking, the way you're thinking, what you're doing, how it feels to you, what your wants are, what your needs are, what your authenticity is. But you're really aware of all the things in your experience and then how you feel in those things. And heightening that level of awareness gives you a greater opportunity to kind of shift and adjust and move through life in a way that feels more aligned. There's a difference between forcing something to happen versus doing something from more of an aligned place, mind, body, spirit, and knowing what you need and kind of moving in that direction, no matter what the consequences are. Obviously these are going to be all positive changes, but whether you have to stop hanging out with certain people, whether you have to quit your job, whether you have to, stop eating that or stop drinking that or whatever it is, but your heightened level of self-awareness and what your mind, body, and spirit need, and then nourishing all those things and coming from a place of, care and confidence to yourself to really fill yourself up on all those different levels in a way that is, again, just more authentic to who you truly are and your own true nature is the ticket. It's the kind of winning combination that gets us feeling our best and gets us, the most grateful, the most aware, and the most, just filled with love and compassion and non-judgment and excitement for our own lives. And then all of those things outwardly to other people. Because like we were talking about before, that this is a journey that you are on your own and you need to fill in your own gaps. You need to fill in those voids that you feel that maybe you've been reaching for external things, whether it's the relationship or the material item or, my next promotion, that'll make me feel good, or whatever it is that you've been kind of plugging yourself into, thinking that those are going to be the things that are going to make you feel whole. And those are going to be the things that make you feel complete and validated. But if you just unplug from those things and then plug those things back into yourself and realize that you are whole, you are complete, you are all you need. And as soon as you fill that all up, then there's no possible way that you could feel anger towards someone or jealousy or resentment or, blaming other people for things that are going on in your life and playing the victim.
Yeah.
When you fill all those things up, without a shadow of a doubt that you are the creator of your reality. You are attracting everything that is coming into your life, and you're just no longer a victim of your experience. You're the creator of it.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. It's a simple concept, but it means so much if we're able to really understand it. And excitement is the right word. That's when things become a lot more exciting, and they're not, we avoid it, I think. Why is it, do you think, that we avoid that, paying attention to how we feel?
Yeah, well, hey, we all have pasts. We all have pains. We all have, traumatic experiences or failures or whatever it is that have created kind of like a limiting belief and fear-based narrative in our minds. And yeah, sometimes we can get pretty dark and twisty. And I think those places in us can, absolutely scare us, because, and I say this all the time, but in order to heal something truly, you have to feel it truly. Mm-hmm. And feeling it is not always fun. Yeah. And, to figure out why you're anxious, it seems like such a daunting task to go into that versus just, grabbing a bottle of wine and drinking yourself to bed.
Yeah, because that works.
yeah, it's avoidance, you know what I mean? And hey, like you can use whatever vices you want or distraction methods you want to numb it or to kind of look away from it, but it will always be there. And this is what causes our anxieties. This is what's causing our, lack of focus, our feeling lost, our feeling, we have no purpose, we have no passion. Like, it's just fogging it all up. And as soon as we just say, I might as well just try to clear the fog as opposed to letting it rule my life. Even just that is the first step in, clearing away all the things that are blocking us through our, blocking our successes, blocking our relationships, blocking our abundance, and blocking, again, that excitement and that beauty that life should be.
Yeah.
We didn't come here to be complaining. We didn't come here to feel stuck or feel stressed or feel overwhelmed or feel unloved. We didn't come here for that. We're here to live like a meaningful, full, exciting, abundance-filled life. And the only block to getting there is us. Mm-hmm. And so really taking a deep dive into all of the things that, have created that negative narrative in our minds and just breaking it down. And hey, like, is it therapy? Is it coaching? Is it meditation? Is it a, wellness retreat? Is whatever it is to you that feels best to you right now and that, you get called to, go do that. Because you're doing not only yourself a service, but you're doing everybody in your life and every situation that you come into a service. Because when you are, again, we were saying happy, whole, grateful, calm, balanced, complete, you are going to come at life with that energy. Mm-hmm. So when we're, in these relationships that we are catastrophic and we are just being jealous, we are being mean, we are being snarky, we are being all these things, those are just the things that have become comfortable with doing to ourselves. So you can only come into a relationship, or you can only come at life at the capacity at which you've been able to come at yourself. So if you don't love yourself, you can't love somebody else. Or you can't accept love from somebody else. If you don't trust yourself, you can't trust anybody else. If you judge yourself, you're going to judge other people. And so we need to kind of clean ourselves first, clean our perception first before anything else looks better. And actually, there's a really fun story that I like to tell. It's a husband and a wife moving to a new home. And after every meal, the wife is at the kitchen kind of tidying up and cleaning the dishes, and she's looking out the window into her backyard, and she can also see her neighbor's backyard, and they have a clothesline. She's like, my gosh, these people are hanging up their clothes and they're still dirty. What's going on over there? Does their washing machine not work? And every day she's making the same complaint. She's like, my gosh, they need like to get some new detergent or something. Like, I should go over there and teach them how to wash their clothes. Again and again and again. She's kind of like laughing at their neighbors at their dirty clothes. And then one day she's washing the dishes and she looks out the window and she says, oh, finally, they figured out how to wash their clothes. And the husband says, no, dear, I just wash the windows. Yeah. And so really, a silly little story like this can show us that we are looking at our lives through our lenses. And if our lenses are dirty, then so will our entire experience. As if they're tainted, if they, have any of these other things we were mentioning before, if they're clouding it up, then that's what we're seeing our life through. Mm-hmm. And so it's our responsibility to first take care of ourselves, fill ourselves up as much as we can with however much love, light, and healing that we need to. And then at that point, we can have more fulfilling relationships, follow our passions because we're confident in our decisions and ourselves, and we know that we're worth it. Have, the relationships with our families or even loved ones or, boyfriend, girlfriend, whomever, husband, wife. We're able to come at that without our own baggage. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, my gosh, yeah, self-awareness, 2 words, big topic.
Absolutely. Well, it makes a lot of sense. And the words you use in terms of we're responsible for how we're perceiving things. And that's what comes up a lot is the discipline of meditation. It's an ongoing process of kind of keeping that perception clear and focused. But we deserve to have all of the experiences, even the bad ones. These are emotions that are a part of the human experience, and we deserve to have all of them. even though they might be hard to come to terms with. But that's why meditation is such an amazing thing, because you're accepting everything, and then things become a little bit more exciting. And as you just finished describing so beautifully, is it starts with self-awareness, and it is a complex topic, because it starts with ourselves, but then it's the gateway to everything else, including other people. And that's what you mentioned earlier. It's that, which I found very interesting, is that you said we're in this alone. You know, we're moving through our lives with ourselves. Maybe not necessarily alone, but it starts with ourselves, and that could be a very lonely place to start for a lot of us. And one thing I notice a lot in terms of modern meditation happening is, with meditation apps coming out, is teaching people how to meditate by themselves. But it could be a very lonely thing. It could be a very difficult thing for people to handle on their own. So I was curious to know, like, now that you're working with other people, what do you think about the importance of human connection and other people in terms of developing kind of like a spiritual practice or a meditation practice?
Yeah, that's a big deal too. So a little story here, and I was literally just saying this to a friend, that at the beginning of my journey, 7 or 8 years ago, there was nobody talking about this stuff in my circle anyways. And so I was, I wasn't lonely, but yeah, like I was alone. And so, that had a few different factors in my development, but one was realizing that there is nobody here to coach you or give you advice that you are going to need to hear, and that you know everything that you'll need to know about yourself. You just have to listen and trust that you are wise enough to guide yourself. And, besides me giving every book that I was reading or audio that I was listening to like my cousin or my sister or some close friends that then started to like show some interest, only so that I could have bigger conversations with people, I was like, please read this book so that I could talk to you about it. Because I was just sitting there talking to myself about it, which was great. And I've become my very best friend. But yeah, it's somewhere it's uncharted territory for you when you first get in there. So being in a group setting and knowing that you are not alone, and that there is this kind of tribe of people who are seeking more of themselves and of their experience, that you can talk to, so you can feel supported, you can feel guided, you can feel included, because of course, like, inclusiveness is just one of the biggest parts of human nature as well. So, and being in a group or tribe setting. So yeah, going to group meditations, just being in the space, even if you don't speak to the person next to you, just that energetic connection and collaboration is really powerful for your development, and for just knowing that, like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person suffering from anxiety. I'm not the only person who's suffering with depression. I'm not the only person who is having these kind of mixed emotions about myself and my life. And knowing that you're not alone helps you feel like, okay, it's not just me. This is a normal thing to be feeling right now. And I know that other people have gotten through it. Look at that person. Wow, like, they were suffering with this, and look at them now. Like, I can do it too. And like, of course, that helps along the way. But it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
So it's knowing that you have a group and a tribe and a coach or a mentor or whomever to go to, but you also are creating a more solid foundation in the relationship that you have with yourself. But absolutely a combination of both.
You need both. And it's like, it's that intention of sharing a space with people and sharing the intention. We're both here for, even if we're both here for different reasons, we're here sharing that. And what is it that when people kind of when they come to see you, or they come to these group meditations, or if they're new to meditation, they come see you and they want to kind of see what this is all about, what are some common factors that you see people searching for?
Yeah, it's funny. We're all so different, but we really are seeking the same kind of handful of things. We're feeling a little lost. We want to feel grounded in our lives. We're not really too sure what our passions are. We're maybe stuck in the same job we've been stuck in for the last X amount of years. Feeling unfulfilled and unmotivated and uninspired. We're feeling anxious. And so we have anxiety. We're feeling stressed, whether it's overwhelmment from your job, from pressures from society or from your family. Feeling just sad depressed, disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are some really common factors through a lot of us. But those are, and it's interesting when you kind of come out the other side of it, those are the feelings that we almost need to feel to know that something needs to change. So if we didn't feel that, we would just be kind of this like robotic, mindless, go through the motions type of person, and your entire life would just go on without you even realizing it.
Yeah.
But it's through our emotional guidance system, which is the most accurate and fine-tuned guidance system that each of us have. It shows us exactly when we are doing something we shouldn't, saying something we shouldn't, acting a way we shouldn't, being around people that we shouldn't. We feel it instantly through feeling like, okay, well, I don't know about this, that feeling of anxiety. I mean, I talk about anxiety as being my biggest teacher. And, even one of the blog posts I wrote that I thank my anxiety. If I didn't feel, which is like a crazy thing to think about when you have anxiety, you're like, I don't want to thank my anxiety. I hate my anxiety.
Yeah.
But really, your anxiety is your emotions pretty much, and your soul screaming at you, saying, girl or boy, something needs to change. And you are doing or being or acting in ways that are not in line and not authentic to who you are.
Yeah.
And the only way we know is if our emotions tell us. So that depression, that stress, that overwhelm, that anxiety that we think are our enemy really are our biggest teachers. And it's when we learn to be still, and through meditation and through self-awareness, that we really are able to figure out what the heck they're trying to tell us and what we need to do to make ourselves feel better by just adjusting our actions, our words, our surroundings, and our experiences.
And
it's absolutely a very important part, and they are not out to get us, they're out to teach us.
Yeah, even if after a while, they might be begging for our attention for a long time, and then that's when we kind of, when we're forced to pay attention to them, and that can come in the form of like a rock bottom. That's the word that comes up a lot, but it doesn't always have to happen that way, right? Like, if like, that's when people come to see you, are they at kind of that rock bottom phase, or are they kind of just curious? Or,
I mean, it's definitely unique for every single person. Some people come there and they're feeling just fine, but they're ready for the next stage in their life, or they want to follow their passion now and they need some guidance. So it's not like you have to meditate only when you're feeling like these really horrible, shitty feelings.
Exactly.
But you can also use meditation, use that power of your breath and that power of being in the now to enjoy a really beautiful moment too.
Yeah.
Or to help, move into an even higher place in your life. So it's just whenever you're called to meditate, or you're called to get a coach, or called to see a therapist, or called to, again, seek more of yourself or your experience, then it just is when you need to be in your specific journey. So yeah, the rock bottom may happen. That panic attack or that anxiety attack may happen. That could bring you to come see a coach, or, people who are having something that's becoming a little bit more common nowadays is adrenal fatigue, is when your body has been under such high levels of stress for so long, your body's just pretty much giving up in certain areas. Meditation is a huge way to help heal and to help kind of like rebalance the body. And or people have just been like, I just haven't been feeling so good lately. And I want to know why. So any level or entry point,
that's a good point as well, though, because it doesn't always have to be about the dark emotions, because meditation has, up until this point, it's been kind of like a mysterious practice where you enter this kind of spiritual enlightenment process and kind of come out the other side a changed person. And that's very relevant in terms of the core essence of the practice. And those ancient philosophies will always be a very important aspect of meditation. But today, I think it's coming to this point where there's like, people are meditating and talking a little bit more about it. And there's this positive side to it. Like, there's more of a, like, productivity, for example, performance, and people just learning more about the real benefits of it, and not necessarily looking for that, to overcome depression or to anxiety. But like, when people see good results from people that they're close to, they want to kind of know what's going on with them. And there's more of that happening as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it's becoming in the forefront of different industries. Like people in the corporate world are, putting in mindfulness into their days and like having like, all right, there's like a 5-minute mindfulness moment where we all just like breathe. Or in this, people, sports industry or athletes are saying, like I meditate before every game to increase my level of focus. It can just be really, at the end of the day, meditation is relaxation, awareness, and expanding awareness. Mm-hmm. So we use meditation to tap into a more relaxed, calm, grounded, present sense of self. And then through that cultivation, we then shift into an awareness. Mm-hmm. That awareness is of ourselves first and foremost, mm-hmm. and then our experience, and then those around us. And then expanding awareness is when we're working into that observer and that witness stage where we're seeing our lives and we are not the victim of our emotions and our feelings and our thoughts. Yeah. And so it's like a few different stages, but you can absolutely find yourself in any three of those depending on what you need right now. So if, okay, I'm feeling a little anxious, I just need to breathe and relax. That's the space I need to cultivate. So you go into that through, breath connection, body connection, affirmations, good feeling music, whatever it is that will help you become engaged and become present. Mm-hmm. And then if you've gotten really comfortable in that space and you're like, all right, I'm ready for the kind of the next step or the next stage. And it happens naturally. It's not like you even necessarily go in with that specific intention. You can, but it's something that you just kind of unlock a little more each time. And the more comfortable you get into that space, the deeper you go and the more you can witness of the experience that you're having. And yeah, it's pretty amazing to see people shifting their mentalities from it being like, well, I'm not a Buddhist monk. Yeah. And, I'm not going to go on eat, pray, love to India. Like we've moved out of that maybe more extreme and specific way of thinking about meditation and all those stigmas and kind of mystical factors that are floating around meditation for a lot of us. And we're moving into the science, into the practicality, there you go, into the relatability, and into the authenticity. Yeah. And so, okay, this could just be something that I use to do better on my exam or do better on my presentation or calm myself down when I'm getting really, upset when I'm having a discussion with a loved one or whatever it is. We can use it in these practical situations in our life. And then we're just practicing really feeling good as we're doing it.
Yeah, makes sense. It's a tool. It's a development. Because at the end of the day, we still have we still have lives to live. We still have this reality to step back into. But what an amazing way to step back into reality from that position of calmness, of awareness and focus, instead of kind of avoidance and reactiveness that is kind of seems to be our mind's way of catching up with all of this stimulation that we come face to face with every day in terms of our emotions and just the social, we thousands of years ago, we were these physical beings that were making our way through the complex conditions of nature. But I think now in our modern era, we're moving further and further up into the mind. And now the conflicts are social and they take place mentally and emotionally. So it's like a battlefield out there. So it's really, that's why meditation is becoming so relevant as a very powerful and useful thing for everybody, no matter what you do. We all have challenges to face, so it's an amazing place to start.
Yeah, and we're literally always turned on and like stimulated and everything is coming at us all at the same time. And having our phones attached to us most of the time
crazy
is not helping any of that. So we literally, like before, you'd leave work and you were done. You'd see them again the next day at 9. But now we're taking those emails, we're up at 11 o'clock at night answering emails, feeding our eyes and our brains with this light that's coming out of our phones. And we're just, our brain is exhausted. Our bodies are exhausted.
Yeah.
And back, like we were saying, back in the day when stress was a good thing because it was helping us run from saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
But now stress is absolutely something that is a mental, emotional, and spiritual warfare that is happening all the time.
Oh yeah.
There's constantly stressful factors, but again, like, we're generally pretty safe. You know, there's not necessarily like bad things that are going to be happening to us. We don't have prey that are, you know, we're not prey that, or we're being stalked or anything, but it's something that is, yeah, we're just constantly overstimulated. We're constantly overstressed. And we don't take enough time to find stillness and disconnect. We don't find time to like go and sit in nature or go for a hike, turn off our phones. You know, airplane mode and do not disturb have become very close friends of mine lately.
Cool.
And just turning it off to just do whatever you're going to do and be present in it.
Yeah. You're allowed to do those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's nothing more insulting than being with people and them just constantly going on their phone, or like, are you even here? Are you listening? Are you, you know, and that's just another distraction method. Mm-hmm. Our phones, you know, like constantly like, hey, I love social media. Mm-hmm. You know, it's given a lot of opportunities for me, and it has for so many people. And it's a beautiful age that we live in. Technology, my gosh, it's like opened up so many doors for us. But it, you know, unless we take our technological cleanse breaks, that's just yet another distraction from us dealing with ourselves, yet another distraction from us caring about ourselves, taking the time to spend with the people who are actually there, and, you know, not constantly being distracted by, you know, the thousands of people that we're talking to on Instagram or Facebook or any other social media platform. So just another distraction method. But if we do it mindfully, you know, and use it with a good intention, and then put it away and take a break from it when we know that we need to, we could still balance it. And it's all balance. I mean, we're not looking to be this perfect person. There's no definition of perfect anyways. Yeah. We're just looking to be more balanced and more aware and more
flexible.
present.
Yeah. Present, flexible. And yeah, it's interesting what you said earlier about how we're not really in danger, not as much as we used to be, when stress was a very necessary aspect of our survival as human beings. And today we have these responses firing off, even though, you know, when it comes down to it, there's not a lot of things that require our attention as much as we think they do, right? And that's one of the fascinating things that happens when in meditation. And stillness is one of those terms that it seems like such a mystical term, but it's really just exactly what it sounds like. It's just being still. The reason why it's so mystical is it's because not a lot of us go there, not a lot of us do that and stop. But when just in meditation, it's very fascinating to see when you're able to kind of follow through with a consistent practice, how many things fall off the radar for you, and there's only a few things left that really you should be that kind of require your attention, you know, and like all of these problems don't even exist anymore.
Yeah, we really spin ourselves up in some pretty complex web sometimes. And I mean, they're all really, and so many of the issues and anxieties and stresses we give ourselves are made up. Mm-hmm. We make them up. We're like a little neurotic that way. And until we realize, again, what the mind chatter is, and something that, you know, I will touch base on, because I say ego voice a lot, and very few people actually know what I'm talking about when I say this. And it's probably the most important thing. If you're going to learn anything during a self-development journey, it's the distinction between ego voice and your gut voice or your intuition. So ego voice is not like cockiness or being like egotistical, as many people think it is when I say ego voice. Ego voice is kind of that ever-evolving narrative that happens in your head. It's the voice that has been created from all the external factors and experiences. So things that like you learned when you were growing up, things that your parents told you, your teachers, your elders, your role models, you know, what they told you, that how you should look at yourself, how you should look at others, how you should look at your life. It has, you know, the narrative has been driven by pains, betrayals, losses, failures, relationships that hurt you, you know, mentally, emotionally, even physically. And those are some of the things that start to shape our ego voice. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I even talk about this in one of my blogs, but ego voices says things like, I'm not good enough. Who am I to deserve that? I could never be successful. I need you to love me to feel validated. I can't be by myself. because it's too lonely. I want to fit in so I can feel special. I know that this person may be bad to me, but I don't think I could find better. I won't do that because I might fail. I mean, like all this negative, limiting self-talk that happens, keeps us small, keeps us petty, keeps us in the same place, doesn't allow room for growth. Mm-hmm. And in that space, in that mental space, and in that physical space where we're saying all these things into our experience, connect that to the short, shallow, and incomplete breath cycles that we're taking for the majority of our day. Yeah. That like we're pretty much panting throughout the day, and it's fueling and firing up the stress, the anxiety, the doubt, the insecurity, and all of those things that I just mentioned. But when we start to learn to shift into a full, deep, and complete breath cycle, and we learn that those voices are not us, they are just our experience, and they are our ego voice, then we start to tune into the gut voice and our intuition, which says things like, you are worth more than this. You can succeed. You can accomplish anything. This isn't right for you. Leave. Follow your passion. You are lovable. You deserve kindness. You are calm. You are balanced. You are not living to your true potential. Adjust your direction. And so though the distinction between those two voices, and when we act out of ego voice and when we act through our gut voice, that's the game changer. And that's through meditation and self-awareness. You are better able to figure out which voice is talking. And as soon as one of them starts talking, as soon as your ego voice was like, oh, I don't think you can do that, you're like, I'm like, I know what you're trying to do here. And I know that you're just my ego voice. And the ego voice is ever evolving and relentless. So even if you've gotten into like better stages of your life and you're doing things that make you feel better, just as much as you are evolving, your ego voice is evolving too. And it's like we want to have no ego voice. We want to have a healthy ego. So we want to create a good relationship with our ego and kind of like come to good terms with our ego voice. Yeah. And know that I know when I'm having my ego voice and I'm able to connect and listen and tune into my gut voice, then you're reclaiming your power. So you're not being the victim of your ego voice and the mind chatter, but you're, spiritually aligned and you're making your decisions through the power of your gut voice. And it is literally the most important thing I think I could possibly say to anybody. If I have to say one thing, it will be that.
That's very interesting. And it's an impulse that you become better at catching it and identifying where these impulses are coming from.
Yeah. And even if, my gosh, you could be in any situation, somebody says something and it makes you feel any specific way that doesn't feel good. First of all, it has nothing to do with what that person said. It has everything to do with you and your experience. And I know one of my favorite books, it's The Four Agreements from Don Miguel Ruiz. He talks about not taking anything personally. Because first of all, everybody's living their experience through their own experience. And you are living your experience through your experiences. And what somebody says or does or the way they act towards you is on them. But the way that you feel about it and the way that you respond to it is on you. And so, again, through creating clarity in the space of ego voice versus gut voice and intuition, we can distinguish between, okay, this person is saying something, and if it's making me feel this way, I need to work on that. So if I'm in a relationship and, oh my gosh, somebody doesn't, text me for 12 hours and I'm feeling insecure about it, there's nothing to do with them not texting me. That has to do with me being insecure. And so why don't I work on that first instead of laying blame on other people for how they make me feel when my feelings are, can eventually be more, not controlled, but I mean more conscious.
Yeah. Just be a little bit more comfortable with myself as well.
Yeah, and knowing that, and when we come to a place that we've filled ourselves up with so much love, light, and care and compassion, you should be so whole that no matter kind of what comes and goes in your experience, it doesn't affect your level of wholeness or completeness. because those are external factors. You've already filled yourself up. You are everything that you need. Yes, of course, it's wonderful to like be with somebody and live a life with somebody and create something with somebody. But you should do all of those things with yourself first. And when you are so full, then these external factors don't affect you as much because you see them for what they are. And you're coming at life and you're coming at these experiences from a much more complete, full, worthy, balanced, grounded place that they don't have that effect on you anymore. And hey, don't get me wrong. You're going to get pissed. You're going to get annoyed. You're going to cry. You're going to have all these different feelings. And it's not like you're doing things wrong, but you just do them with more awareness. Like, I mean, a few months back, I just had a week and I was like, you know what? I just want to feel crappy for a week and binge watch Netflix and eat pizza out of my bed and just call it a day. But I chose to do that with intention. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. Yeah. I'm going through some healing right now. And I'm choosing to do this right now. Just turned off my phone and had my time. Anybody who came to, was trying to reach out to me, like, where are you? What are you doing? I'm like, listen, I just need a little bit of me time. I'm just processing some things. And that is the most powerful thing you can do. Because, if you go into it and say like, okay, I'm feeling crappy, as opposed to being owned by it and pulled away by it, you're like, all right, I'm feeling crappy right now. I know why, I see why. I'm going to be with it in my breath. I'm going to breathe light and love into it. I'm going to exhale out anything that doesn't serve me. I'm going to send it into the universe so it can cradle it with its love. And I'm just going to feel it so I can heal it. So there's no avoidance. There's no, turning to vices to numb it. There's no turning to distractions. It's just owning whatever space and place you are in, but with awareness and consciousness and intention.
Doing it consciously, yeah, that's key. It's fun when you can do that, yeah.
Yeah, when we were talking about the definition of self-awareness, it's the conscious knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires, not just the knowledge of.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, and like even like motives is a big thing. Like, okay, like I'm doing this, but why am I doing this? Why am I reaching out to this person? Is because I could get something? Is that my motive? Is it something that, am I doing it with a whole heart or am I doing it with a hidden agenda? Like little things that you just become really aware of when you are still enough to learn yourself. And so it's just, and it becomes louder. And once you start doing it, it's not something you can turn off. You can try to ignore it, but you'll feel really shitty about it.
Yeah. Or if we're aware of something, we can only sit with it for so long before, it's time to make some changes. Or it's time to hit the couch with some pizza and just retreat, because there's nothing wrong with that as well. But if you're being owned, if you've been laying on the couch for 2 days and you're not exactly sure why, and you should be doing other things, but you're not sure where to start, then that's when you're getting owned by your you're kind of unconscious of your behaviors.
Exactly. So there's doing something unconsciously and letting it own your life, and there's choosing to do something consciously and owning whatever that is.
Yeah, well said.
And it's like I said, it's okay to not be okay. Like, you see this popping up now more than ever. Like we're talking about mental health issues, and people think mental health issues are the ones that are more severe. I mean, anxiety is a mental health issue. That is something that is affecting and impacting your life in a negative way. And so we have to be more comfortable having that conversation and being more comfortable saying, I'm not okay right now, and I'm okay with that. And, we're kind of sucked into this happiness zeitgeist, that the idea that we need to be happy and positive all the time, or else we're somehow failing at life, or we're punishing ourselves or ashamed of feeling sad or frustrated or upset or overwhelmed. And we're not realizing that this is part of the journey, and that the self-development and meditation journey is not just about feeling good and like being positive all the time. And like, it's very much a part of it, but I mean, it's not the only part of it. It's about being aware and awake to our experience, and not trying to dismiss or push away any negativity you might feel, but just owning it and being like, okay, well, this is what I'm thinking right now. Let's deal with that. Let's figure out why this is something that I've been saying, doing, or how I've been acting. And it's not, it's not about always needing to be happy and having that be the measure of a successful life. It's about being compassionate and aware of the emotions that you are having, and allowing yourself to feel whatever it is you need to feel.
How does gratitude play into that?
That is one of my favorite words. I'm so glad you asked. Through a lot of my meditation sessions, whether they be private or group, I mean, we 98% of the time are cultivating an attitude of gratitude. Gratitude is something that shifts our mindset from complaining, looking at the negative, all those first world problems we're always chiming about, and it pivots and shifts us into first of all, we're more present when we're grateful because we're looking at our current experience to find the things that we can be grateful for. So it's taking us out of those external factors and bringing us into the now. It is increasing our level of vibration, our personal level of vibration. It is then attracting more into our experience that we can be grateful for. And it just feels damn good to do. And when we start to focus on the myriad of things in our life that we have to be grateful for, I mean, it leaves little room for the things that are going wrong, quote unquote, or that are not working out in our favor. And even when something doesn't work out in our favor, we've gotten so used to being grateful that we can pivot automatically and say, I know that this didn't work out in my favor, but it might be outside of my radar screen as to why. And so, other things can be kind of working and conspiring in my favor that I don't even know about. So this falling apart may be just the beginnings of something else coming together. And so it's just a mindset shift. If we practice being in a space of presence and groundedness and gratefulness, we're more light. We feel better. First off, it's like the instinctual thing that happens, but we're just making more space for those good feelings, and we're making more space for ourselves to feel good. And again, you become more aware when you're grateful too. It all ties in together. And so and it could be little things. It could be the clothes that I'm wearing, the roof over my head, the bed that I sleep in at night, food on my table, my Wi-Fi that's working really well right now, we can even have this conversation, like any little thing that's happening. When it's raining, it's not shitty that it's raining. Okay. It's not horrible weather. It's nourishing our earth. You know what I mean? Like, it's just perspective. So when you start to just really own and get comfortable in the space of gratitude, then everything looks a little better and clearer.
And you become more of a source of power, and you never want to be going up against somebody that thinks that way, right? That can pick up the pieces from any situation and just keep moving.
And some people might get really annoyed when you're like, oh, everything happens for a reason, and all these cliche lines that people say. They're like, oh, shut up about it already. Like, I don't even want to hear that one more time. I lose my mind.
No kidding.
But
it's a little bit more complex than that.
Yeah, but that's the essence of what we're going for. And so it's not necessarily you have to say like everything happens for a reason. You just be like, this is happening right now. I'm owning that it's happening right now. I'm owning the feelings that I'm happening because of it happening right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to have faith in myself. I'm going to have faith in my choices. I'm going to have faith in the universe that everything will happen in divine order. Everything is here to either develop me, teach me a lesson, or give me the opportunity to grow. And if you really own that, then life becomes pretty darn magical.
Yeah, exactly. And you can choose that, and that's kind of the learning curve that when I first started getting into those terms like positive thinking, and like you said, people get annoyed by those things because I completely understand why. But as you go deeper into those concepts, they're a lot more deeply embedded in the way we move through life. And it's because it's not just positive thinking. It's what would that mean for you if you always chose that as opposed to the other way of looking at things? You're all of the sudden, you're steering your ship in a completely different direction.
And I love that analogy. You say that all the time, that you're reclaiming the driver's seat of your life. Mm-hmm. And as opposed to just being kind of dragged behind the car through the gravel and mud and sand and dust and dirt, you are choosing that, all right, I'm going to drive over some bumpy ground right now, but I'm just going to buckle up. I'm going to go through it.
Look around.
And I know that it's not going to be like this forever, and that I've made it through this much. I've made it through worse. I can handle whatever life throws at me. But I mean, the only way that you can get really confident and comfortable in that space is if you sit the heck down, allow yourself the time and space to find stillness, to find calmness, to find clarity, and to care about yourself. Self-care is not only a huge expression of self-love and self-worth, but when you start to care about yourself, you're tending to your needs and you're tending to your mind, body, and spirit. And when, like we were saying, when you start to fill those things up, you are turning back into the person who you were meant to be. You were meant to be a calm, kind, compassionate, non-judgmental, considerate, unconditional, loving person to yourself and to everything around you. And I mean, they all keep coming full circle, which is, I guess, why we're even having this conversation on these topics, is because, one is so deeply integrated to the other, but you just have to be still and present and grounded to even see any of this, and put away the distractions and move away from the things that are not serving you, and listening to your emotions and working with your anxiety, not against it, and just breathing. So much of our day is just tight little breaths.
Just to survive.
Just breathing unconsciously and just out of necessity, just to survive. And even when people who come sit with me and start to breathe deeply, they could even get, lightheaded. They're like, oh my gosh, I haven't breathed all day. Like, this is, my body is like, whoa, what is all this oxygen?
Exactly.
But it's
feel
in
like
that
going
space.
into your hands.
It's in that space of just breathing and being still and just being in the experience that you're having.
That's amazing.
And that's it.
Wow. Yeah. Well, this has been a rich, fascinating conversation. I really enjoy this. This has been awesome. So what are you up to? What are you up to now? What are you excited about these days?
Well, excited about all of that we just talked about. And, I have some awesome events lined up for the summer, a few being launched very soon, and a few already launched, like on my Facebook page, which is just facebook.com/sitwithanna. My Instagram, I'm always sharing events that are coming up, just daily inspiration, different perspectives, and just kind of a lot of other fun stuff along my journey at sitwithanna. And I just launched, I mentioned this a little earlier, I just launched an ebook called Sit the Heck Down. And it talks about a modern, kind of simple, uncomplicated way for you to start an authentic, relatable meditation practice in your life. It takes away kind of mysticism, it takes away all the stigmas, and just makes it relatable and something that you can very simply do within a few minutes a day. And you can find that on my website, so www.sitwithanna.com/free-ebook, or it's a little tab on my menu, but it's free. And I just want to get this message out there and allow people the opportunity to, find out that they can meditate. And it's not about shutting off your brain, because I could never do that, people say. Yeah. So just really starting to speak to more people, get myself out there on my main mission of not only helping people feel better, really at the core of it all, but to help them live a full, meaningful, exciting, blissful experience.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much. We'll definitely, we'll link that up. And I recommend everybody check out the blog, because Anna has, she's always putting out interesting writing and awesome content on Instagram all the time. Lots of style and energy. So we'll definitely link that up. And what was that? The ebook was what? Sit the Heck Down? What was it? Sorry?
Yeah. Sit the Heck Down.
Awesome. I love that. I can't wait to check that out. So we'll link that up as well. And You're just a beautiful person, Anna, and you're bringing it to us in a very simple way on the ground level of the human experience in a way that we can all relate to. And I really appreciate that. So thanks so much for joining us today and sharing that with us.
Thank you so much. It really takes one to know one. So thank you. And thanks for letting me, blab on this long about all the stuff that I love to talk about. So.
Excellent. Well, we'll do it again. I look forward to it.